3 years and 10 days after the Vancouver attack. Portland, Oregon. Click. Once the lights were on, it wasn't hard to find the TV remote. It was placed carefully on the bed, exactly where a traveller checking in for the night would see it. Terry dropped her bags, picked it up and channel surfed, pausing when she recognised a famous moustached physicist. Thing I don't get is that this shield, barrier, whatever, is supposed to stop things from moving through it, right? That's right, yes. It's like a solid wall in space. Exactly. In fact, it effectively is a solid wall in space, just made out of nothing but the same electrostatic repulsion that makes this table solid, or my hand solid. Satisfied, she checked that the door was shut and the curtains closed, before she shrugged her jacket off and hung it on the hooks by the door. Station get here then? Did he just walk through the wall? That's not much of a wall. So there are. It looks like there are 2 ways to get from A to B faster than light. The first one's the warp drive mounted on Pandora, right? But the second one was actually theorized by Albert Einstein and Nathan Rosen in 1935. Satisfaction shifted to interest as she turned the volume up, as she took advantage of the hotel's expanse by starting to fill the huge bathtub with the hottest water the faucet could provide. Wormholes, right? I think that was on Star Trek. She retrieved a few cosmetic essentials from her travelling case, and soon a bath bomb was crackling and hissing in the water, and filling her nostrils with a sense of grapefruit and bergamot. Upshot is that when you travel through one of these things, the intervening space doesn't matter. You just go from A to Z without passing through B, C, D, and so on along the way. So the barrier doesn't matter to this thing. Exactly. Now the reason we can't use it to get out is because these bridges collapse pretty much instantly, unless they've got a fill generator at both ends. The bath could be left to his own devices for the time being. Terry stood and stripped off her shirt. The garment had been sweaty and uncomfortable for the last couple of hours, and she sighed in honest relief as she was able to throw it into an undignified heap at the foot of the bed. Without somebody on the outside helping us get out. Okay now, there's been a lot of talk about how our gravity is supposed to be much higher than the norm out there. Yes? So are we likely to be that much stronger than everything else out there? Okay, so from what we've been told, Earth is both larger and denser than the average temperate world. Now, if you're both larger and denser, then that means you have more gravity, and in our case it's about 30% higher than what we're told is the average. Terry struggled out of her jeans as Bill Mayer angled his head and made a skeptical tooth-sucking sound. 30% doesn't sound like that much to me. Small changes can make a huge difference. If the Earth was just half as big again as it actually is, we would never have been able to launch rockets at all, let alone one strong enough to carry space stations and people into orbit. Earth is probably pretty close to being about as big as you can get and still send crews of people into space. What does that have to do with muscles? Well, it might have tipped us over the point where evolution would select for one specific kind of muscle, or something like that. That's not really, I'm interested in it all, but the stuff I'm most interested in is astrophysics, and what these new technologies can teach us about things like dark energy. As the real-time panel fell to discussing the politics of the situation, egged on occasionally by their host's snide observations, Terry discarded her underwear and stepped into the bath, hissing and gritting her teeth as she gently lowered herself into the slightly too hot water. She largely ignored the rest of the debate, and the panel's observations as she luxuriated in the feeling of too many hours of freeway travel being cooked away, emerging only once she was thoroughly soaked and relaxed. Finally, new rule, Riley Jackson is not a sex symbol. She arched her eyebrow as an assortment of dismayed noises emerged from the crowd. Mayer basked in the controversy for a second, before launching into the meat of his closing statement. She sat on her towel on the end of the bed, drying her hair, and listened. "Business as usual, Nerf," she muttered. Simbrine. Unidentified vessel, you are entering private space. Halt immediately and identify yourself or you will be destroyed. Kirk halted immediately. The threat was, unbeknownst to the being that had made it, a hollow one. He had come in on a vector which provided him the option of boosting to FDL straight away in the event of aggression, and there wasn't a weapon in the galaxy that could have caught them had he done so. Still, it didn't pay to antagonize the people you were there to see. Complying, Simbrian Colony, Yacht Sanctuary, coming to a full stop, he replied. Sanctuary, state your business. I have a message for Jennifer Delaney, Kirk told them. There is nobody here by that name, Sanctuary, the Simbrian operator lied. Understood, Simbrian, my mistake. But just on the off chance that somebody of that name should show up in the near future, would you please tell her that Captain Kirk is asking, what's the crack? There was a long pause. Sanctuary, you will hold position. Complying, Simbrian, he said amicably. There was a much, much longer pause. Sanctuary, you are clear to land. Do not deviate from your assigned landing trajectory. Thank you, Cyprien. Proceeding to land. Beside him, Dara Houston laughed. Told you a Belfast lass can resist that one, he gloated. Kirk choked a laugh. Just make sure she gets that letter, he said. Aye, I will. Hey, I'll miss you, Kirk. You've been good to us. You'll be okay? He asked. A couple of interceptors had come up to guide them in, and by their lines they were cut down, repurposed hunter vessels. They looked decidedly menacing. I think we all will, so long as this place stays below the Great Hub's radar. Well, my next mission is to try and pull some strings in that regard, Kirk said, as the Sanctuary nosed up and deployed its landing gear. Beats the feck out of me why you're going against your own Dominion like this, man. The landing finished with a gentle bump. Because the Dominion only mattered to me when I didn't understand it, Kirk told him. Good luck, Dara. I'll miss you too. You too, mate. Be safe. He left, and Kirk was left to reflect on just how empty the Sanctuary would feel without his 50 human occupants. He considered having it refit again into something a little more appropriate for humanity's agent. Cape Town. Dr. Hussein could imagine the thousands of cell phones turned upwards to catch a glimpse of the ambassadorial shuttle coming into land. The provincial capital had sold a prime plot of land on the mountainside to the global representative, and had thereby become Africa's answer to the UN in New York. While an architect's design had been selected and the groundwork for the assembly building had already been laid, it would probably be nearly a year before it was finished, so for now the global ambassador's office was rented in the portside tower. The building sadly was not equipped to handle the needs of an intra-system shuttle, necessitating a hangar at the airport and a limousine commute under escort, flanked by birdy black SUVs. Fortunately, the limousine had been outfitted to handle a conference call with the 10 highest-ranking assembly members, so there was no interruption to business. The Gallians are a definite ally, he said. They tried to approach me unofficially via Captain Jackson. As for the rest, well, I think we have most of them sufficiently impressed and intimidated for the time being. The courtier ambassador has a very cool head. He will be the most difficult target for our aggressive approach, and his directorate is easily the most politically powerful. He will probably be able to temper the reactions of the others. The British member was a floppy-haired man who had earned his position by cultivating a popular image as something of a buffoon, an image which had declawed his autocratic accent into a harmless eccentricity. In private sessions and meetings, however, he allowed his whip-smart side to come through, and right now was nodding thoughtfully. We still have a few tricks up our sleeves, he commented. It'd be a shame to use one of them so early, but if we need to. The Chinese member, once General Secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China, indicated his agreement. These privateers have given us a wonderful bargaining chip, if we care to use it. The former US Secretary of State frowned skeptically. It's early days yet. Should we hold on to that one for later? That particular chip may be time limited, Hussein mused. And if we are being aggressive, then we need to keep up the pressure. It's potentially dangerous to our agent, objected the British member. We shall just have to trust him, Hussein asserted. In any case, no great gains are made without risk. And if he succeeds, it will be the move most likely to disrupt the courtier ambassador's call, or else render his call irrelevant. As you say, Madam Chancellor, shall we vote? There was a general show of hands. Then it's settled. The next time our agent gets in contact, we'll have him make the approach. 3 years and 12 days after the Vancouver attack. San Diego, California. Terry's phone played the sound of a door opening just as she took off the off-ramp down onto 17th Street, which was not encouraging. The noise came from a home security app she had purchased, which told her if her apartment door was opened when her phone wasn't at home. She stopped on Logan Avenue long enough to grab the well-maintained Colt 1911 and her concealed carry license from the lockbox in the trunk, where she had hidden them onto the spare wheel for the drive through Canada. Then, heart pounding, finished a short drive into Grant Hill. Rather than take the front door, she parted a little way from her apartment, and, with care, ghosted up the fire escape as quietly as she could. A quick glance through the bedroom window showed no sign of an intruder, so, praying that after a few weeks of her absence it would still side up quietly, she opened the window. To her relief, it whispered open, and she was able to step silently through it onto her memory foam mattress, and from there fold her feet down onto the floor without making any noise. The rest of the apartment was open plan. She hesitated for a moment, thinking about whether to enter slowly and quietly, or burst in and strike the fear of a loaded gun into any trespassers. The thought belatedly occurred to her that a camera and an app to watch it from her phone would have really helped right now. Fuck it, she whispered to herself, and went with the burst-in approach. She shouldered the door, crashed into the room, and sensing his presence out of the corner of her eye, pointed a gun directly at Mr. Johnson, who was sitting on her couch, a gun of his own aimed at the front door. He had his right foot crossed onto his leg, and his spare arm across the back of the couch, looking relaxed and arrogant. That changed instantly when he looked up at her, and his eyes dropped to her handgun. Ah, well, this is awkward, he said. Suicidally, stupidly, he tried to aim at her. They were his last words. 3 years and 2 months after the Vancouver attack. Overluna L2 point. Mission Control Pandora, checkpoint reached, over. 5x5 Pandora. Estar says 0.2% deviation, over. Roger Control. Paranav agrees 0.2, over. The RB2 is green. I have GoCo from the package. Open the door, over. Wilco. For the second time, Riley reflected that jump gyres really should look a little more impressive. She watched closely this time and saw a faint shimmer as the leading edge of the spatial distortion wavered the great dust fields of the Milky Way like heat haze, but that was about it. Otherwise, the space station materialized in front of her. This one wasn't the elegant white needle of Embassy 172, but was instead a little more ornate and decorative. Less minimalism, more Art Deco. Communications were established as soon as they had ejected correctly into the L2 point. Jump complete. Thanks, Pandora, they sent. You're welcome, Embassy. On behalf of the nations of Earth, welcome to Sol. Thank you. The Celsi Alliance is honored to be here.